If you are going to go to a different city to do something, and this is a little pearl, it should be that you're doing something different.
Hello and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Douglas Steinbrech. He's a board-certified plastic surgeon with offices in New York, LA, and Chicago, and founder of Alpha Male Plastic Surgery and Male Plastic Surgery Network, due to his passion for cosmetic procedures customized for men. Now, Dr. Steinbrech received his training at New York University in both general surgery and plastic and reconstructive surgery, and he trained at the Manhattan Ear, Eye, and Throat Hospital. Now, he's also an active member in several medical associations, and he's on the board of directors for the Aesthetic Society, as well as author of 2 books entitled Male Aesthetic Plastic Surgery and Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, both available now on Amazon. Now, Dr. Steinbrech is a frequent speaker nationally as well as internationally, sharing his unique approach to men's desires and structures, and is recognized by the media as being one of the top plastic surgeons for men, and he's also involved in several philanthropic organizations. Dr. Steinbrech, welcome to Beauty in the Biz podcast. It is a pleasure to finally get you on here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. So tell me this, why plastic surgery? Did you come from a family of that, or how?
No, absolutely not. But one quick thing before that, I just want to give credit's due. 2 textbooks. I was an editor with for the women's, actually first the women's one with Elsevier with Dr. Aston and Dr. Walden. So they were co-editors, and then we had several authors that did all the chapters, and then they loved that so much. They knew I was doing men's. Actually, Tima came back to me, and Elsevier and Tima sort of fought over the idea, but then we did the men's one that I was an editor. But all those chapters, I did 8 of the chapters, but the rest of the chapters were authored by other great surgeons from all around the world. So I just want to give them credit. Where did my parents, were my parents plastic surgeons? No. Did my parents graduate from college? No. My mother actually finally did. We graduated together. She graduated just 1 semester after me. So I didn't really come from, and none of my cousins that I can remember, none of my first cousins, I think I have 1 or 2 cousins that actually went, out of 70 cousins that went to school. So I grew up farmer in Iowa, and there wasn't a lot of medical school going on there. In fact, I came from such a small town, I didn't even realize that it was possible to go to medical school. But what happened is I studied really hard, finished my undergrad, went to medical school, and then started my training at NYU. And at NYU, it was either cardiac surgery or plastic surgery. And I really just fell in love with plastic reconstructive surgery at NYU because it had so many great masters, and particularly at Manhattan Eye and Ear, we had so many. We had Aston and Baker and Tabal doing rhinoplasty, and just really the best of the best that were there doing aesthetic plastic surgery. And that really got me excited to see all the greatest in New York all in one hospital in one area, and so many great masters down at NYU as well.
So did you go into private practice in New York first, and you were a general plastic surgeon? How did you enter the marketplace?
Yeah, so I went into private practice in a little office on Park Avenue, and then expanded, went in and had into practice. We started Gotham Plastic Surgery in 2010 with Phil Miller, who's a really nice guy who is a facial plastic surgeon. Mm-hmm. And then I just, after 10 years, we had a good 10 years, but I decided I wanted to go out and be on my own. And so I went back onto Park Avenue. That's where I am, right around the corner from Dr. Hidalgo. We're both on 65th or 68th and Park, 655, and I've been here ever since with Alpha Male Plastic Surgery.
Wow. And then when did you transition from general plastic surgery to male plastic surgery?
Yeah, so that was an evolution. So I finished up in 2004 before was just doing that same old jam like everybody else, mommy makeovers, breast dogs, tummy tucks, facelifts, that sort of thing. But I had so many friends, so many dudes that wanted their abs done and wanted a little liposuction that we just started doing more and more and more. Then we started doing pec implants and glute implants, and then bicep, tricep. And then I started doing ab implants, and we started just doing so much more. And fat grafting, we were doing fat grafting in 2012, 2013. Then I started formulated body banking, got the trademark for that.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so body banking, just so everybody knows, is it's basically a form of fat grafting, but it's a whole formula, which involves taking the bad fat from the bad areas, isolating cell structure and volume, and putting it in for good areas. So we put them into the chest, shoulders, traps. That's the triple play where we do most of it, a lot into the glutes to make a body banking quarterback butt lift, into the abs, into the triceps, biceps, quads, calves, pretty much everywhere where there's a muscle, we can do that. For women, so there are like 4 bumps that they like, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. That adds up for 4. For men, it's all over, everywhere. So we're putting bumps everywhere, but they're strategically placed so they look natural and they look nice. So we really started doing that, and that sort of exploded in 2014. And then we made the men's website, and that's when we went full tilt. So the men's website came around in 2014, and then that did so well that I cut and pasted it to California. So we took down all the skyscrapers, and we put up the Beverly Hills sign and some palm trees, but it was a very similar website. And then we did the same thing in 2019, 2020 for the Chicago site, and put up some skyscrapers from Chicago. So we've been in all 3 centers.
So are you all male plastic surgery now, or still?
Yeah, it's different. I still do, and this is important for people to know. I still do a lot of women's plastic surgery, but for most of it is my original women in Chicago, and their brothers and their sisters, mothers, daughters. And I still have women on my Dr. Steinbrech website. So on my Dr. Steinbrech website, I have men and women. But I've gone for when I went to California, it's probably 90%, 85% men. In the New York office, probably 80%, still 20% women. And then the Chicago office, more like 85, 87% men primarily. But I still, yeah, absolutely, I do women. I don't talk about it. I don't promote it on Instagram because it's more of a whisper campaign for the women, just because I don't want to create any brand confusion on any of my Instagram or any of my other social media.
I saw that because when I was researching you, I saw alpha a lot, alpha male kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I thought, okay, got it. And then I went to another website and it was some women and tummy
Yep.
tucks, and I thought, okay, so maybe because that does the branding gets funny. You're like, okay, so who are you?
Yeah, so most of the people find us through the main websites, really only if they have the name and then they just Google the name, and that's when we do have that. It is a lesson for the other surgeons that are thinking about men's plastic surgery, because you don't need to create a whole new men's website. In fact, I honestly would recommend only, and we can get into whatever niche surgery I know you want to talk about that you do, but you don't necessarily need to create a whole nother website. It's a great expense. It can create confusion with your brand. So if you're interested in doing more men's, like doing implants, I love the implants. I love the calf implants. It's such a good procedure. The patients love it. I just can't believe other plastic surgeons aren't doing it, because it's such a nice procedure and the patients are so happy that they're leaving the sort of money on the table by not expanding their website, by doing implants. But you can do that just with your existing website. You don't need to set up a calf implant website or a men's implant website. You want to do what you need to do, and just first step is just to keep it simple and add those things to your website.
Well, talking about keeping it simple, I want to know logistically, how do you pull this off? Because even when surgeons get a satellite office, it
Right.
adds such complexity to the whole thing. Now you've got different staff, everyone's traveling, the supplies are in one place, you're in another. A lot can go sideways. In your case, you are clear across the country and in the
Sure.
middle of the country. How are you doing that?
Yeah, it comes from having a very organized staff, and they're an expensive staff because good people, you have the right butts in the right seats and you have good people, it ain't cheap. So if you are interested in having other offices, you have to know it's really an investment. You have to take it seriously. I know a lot of people that have tried it, but they sort of done it halfway. When I did it, I made sure that I had things completely set up. I made sure that I had privileges for admissions privileges for uh, for Chicago Hospital, and I'm out at St. John's. It's where Schwarzenegger had his knees done out in Santa Monica, St. John's, Santa Monica, and we're also at one of the hospitals in Chicago. So I wanted to make sure that I did it the right way. So that takes that, and you need licenses in all those states. So it does add for wherever you go, it adds several layers of complexity. So if you're going to do it, you really have to plan ahead. I planned ahead 3 years before I went out to my first California. And then I've seen other surgeons just throw up an Instagram and run out there without any privileges. They're not organized. They just think they have some girlfriend that tells them that they're going to send them
Right.
they have a bunch of girlfriend in LA and run out there and do facelifts. Well, let me tell you, there are plenty of people out there already doing facelifts in LA in case you haven't noticed, right? So you really, if you are going to go to a different city to do something, and this is a little pearl, it should be that you're doing something different. You have a different technique, or you're going after a different group, or maybe even a different ethnicity that you really relate to and you do really well, or a very specific procedure, rib bending, but it's got to be something that not a lot of people are doing. Because if you're just going to go out there and be another rhinoplasty surgeon in Beverly Hills, you're fooling yourself because there are just so many guys. When I say guys, men and women surgeons out there that are already doing very good rhinoplasties, and it's very competitive. So you do your homework, figure out where you want to do it, and then you have to do a lot of planning to it, and you have to have a very understanding family and a very understanding staff because it is a lot of effort. It's very expensive, and you need to make sure that you're doing something different.
And managing the lead flow versus the surgical schedule, because the travel alone, I don't know how you do the jet lag. As I get older, I need my 8 hours. I don't know how you're doing it.
That that the jet lag is actually the easy part because
Oh,
I'm not a partier, and so when I go to LA, I just stay on New York time, which is surgeon's time. Get up 3 hours earlier,
yeah.
go to bed 3 hours late. I don't need to go out. I don't have my beautiful families here, and I have like a little date, a little Zoom date with them, or a FaceTime date with them, and then I go to bed. So I just stay on New York time. So that's not such a problem. The jet lag's not such a problem for me.
Hello there. Quick pause to ask you if you have gaps in your practice draining your time, profits, and peace of mind. If so, I can help you streamline, grow, and take the guesswork out of your practice. Book your practice growth strategy review at catherinemaley.com, and let's turn those gaps into growth. Now, back to the podcast. What about you still need to do consults with people? Like, do you just show up in LA and somebody's already got your schedule filled with consults or with surgeries? I'm just
Yeah,
wondering, how do you work the post-ops and the pre-ops?
yeah. So I do. I like to do. I do see all the patients in house 2 or 3 months early, 2, 3, 4 months early. So what we do is we stack up Saturday. We fly out two consultants out to our Beverly Hills office, and so I'll do surgery. I fly out Tuesday night, do surgery Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They're pretty long days, and then I'm usually doing like a torso tuck with body banking and a chest lift, and then maybe a liposuction body banking case as a second case, or maybe a face and a torso tuck. Or so it's usually like 6 big cases, or maybe, one of the days, maybe 3 smaller cases. And on Saturday, we have 2 rooms, 2 consults, and I just bounce back and forth like Sherelle Aston used to do with facelifts, seeing consults. And then I have another room where I see injectables, and another room that I see post-ops. So Saturday is, I used to see all my post-ops for Sunday, but I wanted to get back and spend another day with my family out in East Hampton. So I squoze all the week post-ops into our Saturdays. So Saturdays are actually very busy now, but we just have an extraordinarily well-organized staff to make sure that everything's all together. And you're right, like all of that's got to be pre-scheduled, and all of it's got to be in the schedule before I go out there.
Are there any other providers, or are you the only revenue generator?
I'm the guy that's doing it. And what we found is I'm always looking for other people to work with me. I do find a lot that people, they're used to seeing all my YouTube videos and all the Instagram, and they're used to seeing this face. So, but we're always looking for other people to join the team, because I would love to get back to New York and be spending time with my family, or if we want to expand into any other places around the country, we're going to need to free up some Steinbrech time to be able to do that.
Right? How often are you in Chicago?
Same thing. One of the weeks, a month, and then the issue is the majority of the time's got to be with the New York practice. But I get out there once a week. It's the same kind of thing. Bring out both consultants, see all the consults on a day, and then put them on the schedule 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Sometimes it can be out a year if they really just want to plan ahead to do that.
And the consultants that's kind of a good gig. They get to fly around.
Yeah, they like it. It's always fun to like be jetting out to Beverly Hills and get some nice weather in the middle of the cold weather of New York. So that's a nice little perk.
And is everyone male in your staff? Although I should say I went to Instagram and I did see a female, but otherwise you had male coordinators, right?
Yeah, everyone, there's like they say carpet and then linoleum. So everybody pretty much in the front are men. But out in the back, we have in the OR, we have some females. So we have my circulator, whom I love, is female, and in the LA office, in our surgical center, our scrub techs are both male and female. All the circulators are all female, and in the Chicago surgical center, they're pretty much 90% are female there. But in terms of our front office, I ain't got nothing wrong with, no problems with women. It just happens to be that a lot of our staff end up being guys for whatever reason. It's not necessarily that need to be that, but it just ends up sort of being that way. I mean, so some of our patients are gay. Some of our consultants are gay or straight. Really doesn't make any difference. But we just happen to have like a mix of dudes that are in the office.
Are any of them your ex-patients?
I always say my friends become my patients, and my patients become my friends.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. Yes, there are a couple that have been patients and that work for our staff now.
I mean, I think at that point they're not salespeople; they're just advisors, because they've been through the journey with you, and I mean, who can sell you better than someone who's already gone through it?
Absolutely. And by the way, this is another good little pearl: is even if you have a women's practice, don't be afraid of dudes. Women, in fact, Joe Biamonte, and he started out as my lead patient coordinator. Now we have Ricky White. They're both great guys. But our first one, I had him back when I was doing women back at Gotham Plastic Surgery. We're doing more women before we went pretty much all men. And the women, I was afraid to bring in a male consultant for for tummy tucks and breast dogs, but he did fantastic, and the women loved him. You know, you have to do certain things. You have to bring in a woman to do measurements and things like that. So there are little things that you do have to do, but men, and none of this is meant to be sexist at all. But men, you know, we are in a business, and sometimes we think of your patient coordinator as like bringing the coffee, hugs, lots of warmth. You know, no, they got to be a killer salesman. You know, and women can be, men definitely can be. So our I always tell people when I give a course at the Aesthetic Society every year, and I always say, like, you know, don't be afraid to have a man when you're looking out for your next. I don't care if you have a 100% women's practice. If you're looking for your next killer salesperson, go to watch store where they sell Rolexes. Go to a high-end car lot where they're killer salesperson. Go to a jewelry store where there's a dude who's killing it. And you don't need like the nice nurse, and you don't need the nice woman with the hugs. What men want and what women want is they want someone that's going to follow up. They want someone that's going to answer the phone calls, their emails, give them all the information, and then bring them everything that they want. We always say, don't offer a cup of coffee or Diet Coke if you're not going to bring it. Don't tell the patient that you're going to call them after the surgery if you're not going to call them. So that is like a big no-no in my office. Everything that we say we're going to do, we're going to deliver on. And I always tell the story where I went to, this is good marketing office stuff, when I went to the fanciest place to get my hair cut, and they had three different people ask me three different times for coffee and cola. Yeah. And I actually said yes, and zero brought it to me. So like, that's not good. And nobody wants you. People just want what you ask for. If you want a steak and you want it medium rare, you want it warm, and they blow it, and they either burn it or they underdo it, and then they try and bring you a sundae with a cherry on top that you didn't want. You want to take that cherry, you want to throw it at the waiter. You know, yeah. All you want is what you're asking for, and that's an important thing. So all the hugs and all the Diet Coke and all the love from someone that's not going to give you good information and good emails and follow up with you, nobody cares about those hugs. I'm sorry.
I look at behavior more than anything else, and attitude. And if I can get a coordinator who has that sense of urgency and attention to detail, yet they're very good at connecting fast.
Yes.
They're listening, and they're actually, like, when they ask, do you want a Coke? They actually bring one. And the thing about urgency is everything. I can't tell you how many people, well, you already know, how many staff will complain how busy they are. They're so busy telling you how busy they are, they could have had the darn thing done already. And this is where the paperwork starts getting lost, and everyone forgot to do the labs. It's like, no, I need someone super efficient. And that's not easy to find, by the way, because a lot of salespeople have the bonding and the people skills down, but they're terrible at the paperwork. And at that point, I would say, well, you know what? If they're so good at sales, get them an assistant, or have an assistant person who handles the paperwork, because it's so hard to find somebody who's really good at the people part. You know, how do you get somebody to a yes? You make them comfortable, and you're so efficient. I think you can charge more when somebody can feel, as a patient, I feel this all the time. Who did I walk into? Did I walk into a Kmart, or did I walk into a Four Seasons? And you can feel the difference because they're so much more efficient and professional and on their game, and it's a smooth running operation. That I will pay extra for that any day than the blue light special where no one knows what's going on.
Absolutely. And the sugary sweet people with all the hugs, that people see right through that. In fact, if it's too much, it doesn't look professional, it looks overdone and desperate. So we try and create a very, white glove professional environment. It doesn't mean our guys are running around in suits. We like to keep it relaxed and keep it casual for the men. But I think that to your point, the important thing is being on top of it, answering all your questions, following up with it, giving correct information. Those are the things that that are going to get you better patients and better cases.
But how do you keep that patient experience consistent in 3 completely different environments, different cities? How do you manage that? How do you know? You
It's,
know?
I mean, it's really it's really the people. There are slight differences. You know,
Mhm.
in New York, they're more business like. In LA, it's a little. In Los Angeles, it's a little more. We really have to follow up with them and get after them to get their labs in, to get their clearances, to do all that. So, you know, it's a little bit different. People in Chicago, I'm from the Midwest. They take more time. They're very careful with their money. They take more time to make their decisions. So where there's those patients are a little bit later in booking, and the cycle is just slower with them. So everybody's a little bit different. But if you understand that and you have a team that can adapt to those different environments, then you'll be okay.
Now, where does non-surgical fit into your kind of business model? Do you do any? And if you do, how do you manage that in between all the surgery?
Yeah, so I do a lot of male model makeovers. Sorry, I do facial injectables. We also do male enhancement downstairs, if you know what I'm saying. So those we end up doing those on non-surgery days. So I'll do consults, I'll see follow-ups, and then while I'm seeing a consult or another follow-up, they'll be getting one of the injectable patients ready. So we just weave them in with the rest of our patients.
Is it a big part of your business or a small profit center
I'd
for
say it's probably between month to month is between 15 and 25% of the business. We are surgery heavy,
you? Mhm.
but yeah, that's where it probably ends up being.
Is the point to increase the lifetime value of a patient by hanging on to them for surgical and non-surgical, or is it more like a surgical feeder? Those who want a
It's
little
both.
quick.
It's three things. It's the two things that you said to create a patient that's going to be a longer lasting patient.
Mhm.
It's to bring in patients right now they want Botox and filler, but they may be 5, 10, even 15 years away from getting surgery. So it helps that. It helps us gain confidence. The 747 idea about making sure that someone knows that you're good at doing Botox and fillers, then it gains their trust when they're ready to have surgery done. It also keeps people in the practice in between surgeries. So I have a lot of patients, just analogous to women operating doctors, that they'll do their breast aug and then they're in the practice for 20 years and then they come back and do a facelift. Well, if you haven't seen that patient in 20 years, I know a lot of patients that can't even remember the biggest, fanciest, most famous Park Avenue, facelift surgeons. 20 years later, they say, I had a facelift, and he is the biggest guy in New York. He did my facelift in the 90s. And so I say, what's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue.
No kidding.
Oh, you'd be shocked. And then you finally say some of the big names. Was it so and so? And they're like, yes, that's it. But they will forget like what we would call a world famous
Yeah.
doctor just because they have other things in their life and it's been 20 years since they saw them. Now, so what we want to do is we want to hold them in our office. So we keep them. They love us. They love our staff, and they're less likely to roam
Mhm.
because people these days, and it's even harder because people just get on this thing and the Instagram and whoop, they're whisked away to another practice. So we want to make sure that we keep them in our practice. We want to make sure we maintain loyalty. So we may do their body banking and their abdominal sculpting when they're in their 20s and 30s, but then end up doing a neck lift, a facelift, or a brow lift in a guy who's now in his 50s or 60s.
Gotcha. What about any what would you say is the biggest challenge of running a practice the way you're doing it, this multi-location, complicated system? What's the biggest challenge?
Coordinating, I mean, really coordinating staff. That's one of the I tell you, I mean, family is important, and I'm lucky with the guys I have. They have more the male staff. They have more mobility to move around. If they're single, they have more mobility to move around. A lot of times, um, if I had, and I totally get it. If you're a mom and you work in the practice, but of course you don't want to miss your kids, flute recital or whatever. It's going to be harder to schedule people to travel. So that's probably one of the main things is staff, consistency of staff. Also, quite frankly, one of the challenges in California is that the way the rules and our California people can help me with this, the way the California state rules and laws, it's so difficult for small businesses to work. It's just so onerous for people to be able to have full-time employees that in Beverly Hills and in California, you just have a lot of people just bouncing around, so many practices, being sort of like day laborers. And we want, like in New York, everybody's here for the last, some of our employees have been here 10, 12 years. Nobody's not been here. I think our newest employee maybe 6 months, but that I would say our average employee in my practice in New York has got to be between 5 to 8 years, which I mean is pretty good. But out in California, there's a lot more of a revolving door because it's just so onerous on small business owners out there to be able to keep really good employees full time. So it's just really challenging. So having those local people, the scrub techs and the circulators, to be really consistent, that can be a challenge. You feel a lot of times like a restaurateur. I don't have to do any of it. Our practice development and our practice manager and also my office manager has to coordinate all that stuff. So Joe Biamonte
That's
takes
another
care of
big
that.
secret. When you look, I can tell you have some kind of operations manager, then there's an office manager. You have managers. You have people
Yeah.
helping you do this. So many surgeons try to do this on their own, and that's usually where the trouble starts because you can't be the surgeon and the manager and the content creator and the visionary. Like it's really hard
Yeah.
to do all this.
Yeah, you have to if you want to scale, even if you're in the same practice, if you want to scale, you have to start unloading. You have to start getting the right people in the right seats, and those investments will pay for themselves. And you pull your hair out when you start out. You want to keep things. I mean, when I started out, my first person is the person who was going to pull up the phone. But as you start to grow, you have to have a little faith in the growth to hire that person that's going to do social media, or hire that person that's going to do that's going to manage things to free you up to be able to do the surgery and for you to be able to do the things that you need to do.
But honestly, how do you trust certain people? Because do you have any tips for that? So many of the surgeons have been embezzled because they're not watching the money and they're trusting that someone else will. And usually that's
Yeah,
when the wife is called in because,
right.
so do you have any tips or tricks for managing
Yeah, it's like we always say, it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect. And the other old saying is, the one about trust but confirm.
that?
Just always do little spot checks. What I do is I tell my staff members, I usually pair people together. For
Yeah.
instance, the counts for all the injectables, right? I
Hmm.
put two people on there because I want to make sure that they both keep each other honest and also don't make mistakes. You can make it be going on for a long time making mistakes. And I remember one time I had a box full of Voluma. Like Voluma was new, and so they gave me a big, like one of those cigarette carton ones, and I
Hmm.
think it had like 24 of them.
Wow.
Just and I had that on my desk, and didn't do anything, and it just got eaten away. And I know what people did. They came and grabbed one for for a patient or one for a patient here, but then they really started slipping away. So if you're not, if you don't put two people and assign two people to something, uh, and don't make them best friends,
Yeah.
then it's human nature. You know, people, things can happen. So you always have to make sure that everyone, be it your bookkeeper, the accountant, be it the people that are doing all your stock counts, the people that order things, the people that are doing the quotes, make sure that there's always a second person that is keeping an eye on that person.
Have you had any troubles with it?
I haven't, but I've had some friends. I had a lot of friends that were doing the old-fashioned double quote, where they
Yep.
were giving one quote and then they were printing out a separate quote they were giving the patient. And a good friend had the patient come in and say, "I had a question about that," and nobody in the practice recognized this piece of paper because it wasn't part of the print.
Yeah.
And they realized that one of their really, they thought, well trusted patient coordinators was whom they could trust, and she was just adding on $200, $300. Just kept it small, kept it
Yep.
small, but she got away with it for 2 or 3 years, and they brought her in and said they were going to call the police unless she just left and never said anything about it. So they ended up not calling the police, but that stuff happens.
It's shocking that it's usually somebody you trust with your kids, and next thing you know, years later, that they've been stealing from you.
Yeah,
That's such a blow to anybody, but surgeons especially, because you usually want to take really good care of your staff, and then have
sure.
them take good care of your patients. And when you see something like that happen, it's really shocking. Like,
Yeah,
what else is going on around here that I don't know about? So I'm glad you have a COO or whatever you have, the C team. You
yeah,
need people helping you do this, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Give me one big mistake you have made, because so far it all sounds way too easy, and I know it's not.
One mistake. I think I probably micromanage, and I know, I know, I think, here's a mistake, and I think what I would do and what I need to do is when you have other people that are coming in, you really need to get their face out there. And I, I was a little bit shy about having my staff in really encouraging them to get in, do YouTube and do social media, and we're getting them more excited about it. And new hires make sure that they're in, like they're in to win. So that's something that I would do, is really encourage people to be more on top of social media. Also, I think when new things come along, there are going to be some things that are going to fit your practice. Like, let's talk about social media. I didn't jump on the whole Snapchat thing. It ended up being fine because my my niche is a little bit, is slightly older
Mhm.
than like the breast dog Snapchat group. But I could have been more aggressive in some of those. I was really aggressive in YouTube, but then I was a little bit behind Instagram. But then we got back on top of Instagram. So I would say, whatever the new technology it is, you're not going to go after every technology, but find one that, don't let one, don't fall behind in any of them. And then the other thing is, use your style. Now I know, like, when to use your style and what's right for your practice. So if you have a more mature facelift, very sophisticated practice, very high end practice, you're not going to do like TikTok challenge, silly dance kind of things. But if you have a young breast hog practice and they like fun things like that, then yes, you may do that. You may have more humor. So what you have to do is, don't do some TikTok challenge just because it's a big craze right now. You have to be true to your brand. You have to be true to your, what we call your biggest check, which are the people who are in your practice that are coming in and they're your solid people. You have to aim, and it's got to be something you're comfortable. I wasn't comfortable doing silly like TikTok challenges, and I think it hurt my brand. I think all the people, or that it would have hurt my brand. And I think for all those people that you think you're getting, don't forget, don't make yourself feel bad by not doing that ridiculous TikTok challenge. because as many people you think you're reaching, you're losing some of your core that are starting to see like it looks silly and ridiculous. And so you may be losing people on the other end that are like really loyal and high and people. So don't feel guilty that you're not jumping at the next like silly, ridiculous TikTok kind of challenge.
There's such a balance between you have to do it. You just have to do social media in
You
today's.
have to, but you can do it with your style, your way.
Yeah. But especially you going after three different cities. Google SEO is never going to give you all three cities. They're going to give you one, and you have to reach for what you're trying to do. You have to reach out, and social media is the only way to do that. Do
Yeah.
you find that a lot of, I mean, you have 176,000 followers on Instagram, so you're killing it there. Do you find a majority or a small portion of your patients are coming from Instagram?
Yeah, it's a majority.
Okay.
That's Instagram. It's still we still have the YouTube because just have years and years and years of people that have followed our YouTube videos for slightly longer content. So we still get a lot from that, and we shift back and forth from that. Some are from TikTok. TikTok's again the breast audience, but don't get me wrong. Just like Instagram grew up into Facebook, TikTok's going to grow up into Instagram. All those are going to age, and the patients are going to age with them. We don't do a lot with Facebook. Uh, I mean, everything that's on Instagram goes to Facebook, so we still do get some people from that, but not as much with Facebook. And whenever we do anything, we ping it out we say ping. That means it goes out to everything like a firework to
Yeah.
all social media platforms. It goes to all of our mail, our Dr. Steinbrech website, and all of our mail websites, the national mail website, the Chicago, the LA, and the New York website. So again, like I would not advise people to start doing this because it is a lot. It's very expensive. So if you're just dipping your toe in the water, it's smartest to not overextend yourself, and it's smartest to use your own website and build onto that. So if you want to do pec implants, everybody has breast augments. It just like surprises me that people don't do pec implants because it's the same thing. But just to start putting men's pec implants on your website, and then you get your first patient, you get your before and after BNAs, we call them. You get your first BNA, and then you start making a gallery, and then people start seeing it for pec implants wherever you live. They can't all come to New York or LA. And same thing for calf implants, same thing for bicep tricep implants. So it's 51% of the patient population of the world patient population are men. So people that just go in there and do women, they are missing out. And even if you don't do men's plastic surgery, you can always bring on a young buck who's going to join your practice, and he can be doing men's plastic surgery in your practice.
So would you suggest, like to the young surgeons listening, because we have a lot of them, that they go into a niche kind of model like you did, do it right
Yeah.
away?
So this is how I feel about this. And this is what I told the residents. It's don't be afraid. And this is what Nick Tabal taught me, a great rhinoplasty surgeon from Manhattan Pioneer. And I'm going to tell you the story. Back in the day, it was always Aston Baker doing top facelifts, right? And then it was always Nick Tabal was probably the third one when I was in residency, third most popular. And he did it. He thought a monkey could do a facelift. That's how. Well, I should be fair. Maybe that's not the nice thing to say, but he felt that the artistry was in the rhinoplasty, and he felt, I shouldn't say it's not fair to say that, but he felt that that he was excited about rhinoplasty, but he would send us off to watch someone else do a facelift because he felt that a lot of people could do a very good facelift. I think it was his way. It was his way of saying that it was really about rhinoplasty that takes the mastery. So so the point of this is, even though he didn't stress facelifts, he was probably doing the third greatest number of facelifts a year in New York at that time. And the reason why, and this is the point of the story, is when you go out there, you can't be a jack of all trades, and you can't be afraid to find something you're really excited about and say, this is my interest. Even, and I've been on the board and on the committee for websites for people that are interested in being in the aesthetic society. You cannot say that you're an expert in everything immediately out the door, but you can say that this is the focus of your interest. You can say that this is your passion. And I tell all the NYU residents, when you come out, make a website, make it about breast augmentation, make it about facelift, make it about nose, but pick one thing, and it's got to be something that's pretty popular. It's got to be, a facelift, a neck lift, a breast augmentation, a liposuction, a BBLs. It's got to be something that there are enough on. You don't want to say, my passion is otoplasty, because I'm sorry, there just aren't enough to get your practice going. But the point of it is pick one thing and say this. You don't have to say you're an expert. You're an expert after you've talked about it, after you've done some chapters about it, after you've been recognized nationally and internationally that you speak about it. That's when you can say you're an expert about it. You're a world-renowned expert. But you can say, this is my passion right out of the gate. This is what my field of interest is. You can totally say that, and it's legit. But don't be afraid, and this is a mistake that people come out into practice. If I say that, I don't want to say that. If I say that, then I'm afraid if I'm a rhinoplasty, I won't get the breast augs and I won't get no. You'll get more of everything else, like Nick Tabal got faces, if you say that you're an expert of this. Because once you do their nose, or you're an expert, or your interest is breast augmentation, you'll then gain their confidence, and then you'll pull out the rhinoplasties, and then you can do that. So never ever be afraid to pick one thing and say you do this. Because if you go out of the gate and you say, I'm a jack of all trades, I do everything, look at this, no one will ever see you as becoming an expert in anything, and you'll kind of not be known for being ultimately an expert in anything. And those are the people that don't really get the practice off and going, is because they just say they do everything.
It's so counterintuitive, but you're not going to get anyone's attention when you're everything to everybody. You've got to specialize. Just call it specialize. All right, folks.
Exactly.
My passion.
Just say you specialize in it.
Get known for something before you tell everyone you're everything. That makes so much. It does. It's not logical until you're a marketer, and then you realize, oh my, and you're going to save a ton of money too, because you're going to go after a certain demographic who wants that certain procedure. They're in certain places. It's way easier to just focus,
Absolutely. And you just have to tell yourself, don't sweat the other stuff. Don't sweat all the liposuction, the breast augs. That will come, but you have to get people in there to do it. And what do you want to do? And also your price point. If you're known for something, that's going to elevate your price point. If you're jack of a trade, you become a commodity, right? Yeah. And then you're just doing breast augs there are guys out in Brooklyn that fly up from all over the country. You're coming to some mass marketing thing that is just a website. People are flying in, and they don't even know who their doctor is going to be. And, it's like $4.99.99. What are these $99.99.99 practices? And it's just a commodity. So do you want to be that doc where you're just doing all in chop shop, basement bargain prices? That's not going to be a good thing. And you're never going to elevate those prices unless you say you specialize and say that you're passionate and do a lot of content about a given topic. Maybe a couple of little breast augs around that if you're doing rhinoplasty, or maybe a couple of noses if you want to be the breast aug specialist. But you really you'll get more business at a higher price point if you decide out of the gate to specialize in something.
Well, go back and remember when you were transitioning from all plastic surgery to male plastic surgery. Did you have to get it in your head to then raise your prices because you're specializing now? Was that an evolution, or did you just make a decision? You know what? I'm a specialist now in male. I'm going to charge 20% more than everyone else because I can, because I'm focused on it. Was it like that, or how did you, or have you raised your prices because of your specializing?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. You just have to. What you have to do, and this can not just for men, this can for rhinoplasty, for whatever. It's the only way that you can elevate your prices. First of all, you have to say no. a lower price point.
That's the
Or
secret. You have to be able to say no to what you don't want, and that everyone cringes. They know money's good here. No.
yeah, you have to be able to say no, and then also you have to make sure that your staff um, can uh, can credentialize you and tell the value of why you're paying more. And it could be that you're in a larger city. It could be that you've been doing this for years. It could be that 50% of your practice, my practice, is fixing all the botched tummy tucks that I convert into torso tucks. Like 50% of my practice now is revisionary surgery. So that when people hear that, of course, who doesn't want to go? All the rhinoplasty surgeons know this. If you do revision rhinoplasty, well, they figure you must be good enough to do the primary rhinoplasty. So much of my practice was revisionary work, and it also that sticks into people's head. Well, maybe it's worth paying more because I don't want to have to come back to you again when I get an inexperienced person. But you have to say no. You have to be confident. You have to, and we've just walked up the price over the years, and also the most important person when you're starting out your practice is the guy that's picking up the phone or the woman that's picking up the phone. And Josh is our guy, and he's amazing. He's a performer, and he's so good on the phone. You should call our office.
I'm going to call now. I'm going to mystery call
Josh. He's a singer. Just hear Josh's beautiful melodic voice and how good he is. Now we're going to see a bunch of leads come in from other surgeons to hear his voice. But you have to hear his voice. But just do it, and then at the end of it, you can tell them that you heard it here at Catherine's podcast. But yeah, just to hear how he does things, because that's where you want to put your money in, because that person, when they hear it's going to cost what, then they can pull you out of the trees and tell you why. And that's another thing is we pre-qualify everyone. So we have a very high conversion rate. So our conversion rate to surgery, we have two conversion rates. One is calls to consults, to cases, A to B, B to C. So our consult to closure to case is anywhere between 60 to 87%, depending on the patient coordinator.
And depending on how much you qualified them.
And depending on how much you pre-qualify. I almost don't like, it sounds great to be 87% closure rate. That's a little too high for me, because I think it sounds great. We closed 87%.
Right.
But you may be over pre-qualifying them, and you may be missing some of the people that would have had surgery by not having it. We have everyone. We charge consults. That's another thing. You have to be able to respect yourself to charge for consults, and sometimes not be afraid. And also it creates more commitment. So you're not getting holes in your schedule because people aren't showing up. Those are all the stuff that you talk about all the time.
But how do you get it through your staff's head that you are worth it? Because oftentimes you're worth it, but the staff stumbles over it saying, we're going to charge a consult fee. Now we're going to charge, like, they can't even say the word 20,000, so I say 20K, say 20K. But how do you get the staff on board? And do you have to, like, I've been in practices that never meet, and then I've been in practices that meet every Friday and talk about customer service and why we're the best. Where do you fit in that?
Our staff meets every Thursday, and they meet every Thursday with our practice manager and our office manager while I'm in the operating room. And they run through everything, challenges they have, special patient situations, and then they have a portion of it where they talk about training.
Good.
And then we have like secret call-ins, so we're testing on our people, how they sound, how they secret shoppers, how they sound, and we audio tape those, and we tell them, like, this is an expensive practice to run, and people are used to paying X for a car, X for this. You don't think your face, you don't think your body is worth paying a BMW or paying a Mercedes, or some people are, paying a house for a facelift. So for some practices, so yes, it's out there, and also the cost of living has gone up, but people will do this. So you have to train them. And a lot of people, like I came from, we weren't poor, but we were very middle class in a small town in Iowa. So hearing some of these prices, when my dad came to New York and he realized that people pay $1 million for a rental in the Hamptons, and he thought that you were going to be able to buy that house for $1 million. And I said, Dad, that's just for July and August. You know, he almost had a heart attack in the car. So people just have to know that people will pay for money for this, but your staff, you have to make sure that your staff knows that they're worth it, and that they pass on the value of it, and also that's got to be consistent with the rest of everything. Now, there's some practices that don't do that, and they want to keep their prices mid-range, which is completely fine. There's no race for that. But even for those people, instead of being at this price, you might want to try and elevate to a slightly higher price. And that means just having that training to create that value, to just bump it up maybe 10, 15, 20, 30%. We're not talking astronomical prices for everything.
But it's the your standards for excellence. If you want to charge more, be more.
Yeah.
I mean, do more, be more. Just answer the phone better than somebody else. Have a better patient experience. So much of this is so logical, but people get in their heads about the money part. And I know patients, and patients will pay extra if they're getting something extra or they feel like they are.
Right.
And not
And
all patients will, and you don't want all patients. You want the patients who agree that you're the best choice for them at this price.
exactly, I totally agree with that. The other
Yeah.
thing that can improve your price point is, it took a lot of time, and, to put together the textbooks took a lot of time. First, the women's textbook with Dr. S and Dr. Walden, and then the one that
Mhm.
I edited for Tima that was all about men's plastic surgery. Boy, I had that baby out in the waiting room. I have it
Mhm.
in all the rooms because that adds credibility, and that's an investment in time, but it pays off, because when people come in the office, they feel like when they see a textbook about a particular area, and the people that are on the panels for liposuction, for rhinoplasty, for neck surgery. A lot of those men and women surgeons have written a textbook or several articles. So that is another thing. It takes a lot of time, but that is another thing where, and people aren't stupid. They see a textbook, or they see something that's substantial. That's different than having a pamphlet, or some local thing on ABC about, oh, ABC, I'm going to be on Nightline tonight at 12:30. We
Nice.
just
I won't
we're
be up,
talking.
but I'll try to catch it tomorrow on YouTube.
Yeah, we're talking about men's plastic surgery. They did a great, and they wanted to say, they bumped me a couple of times because they wanted to be the lead story,
Mhm.
and they kept on getting bumped by Diddy or by
Yeah.
Trump. So I
Yeah.
kept on getting,
A lot going on right now. Yeah.
oh yeah, I kept on getting that can kicked down the road. But tonight they're like, we swear to God, you're gonna be on Nightline tonight. You're gonna be the
Nice.
lead story. But those things are important too. But it's really important to invest in a larger project that people can say, like, wow, that probably took a lot of time to write a textbook about something.
Well, and it takes you a lot of time. You're very, very good at the branding, and people don't know how much effort goes into that. But if you go on your website, you have literally documented every chapter you've written, every talk you've given, and
Yeah,
it goes on and on and on. All of the travels, like all the speeches, everything is on there. I do it so often I forget to even do it anymore. Not you.
yeah.
You keep
No,
you keep
I
going.
do it
That's how
whenever
you.
I come home from a talk. The last
Yep.
3 talks I gave it goes right to Abe. It goes on all the websites,
Yep.
and that's important. And listen, it's not just for the patients; it's for other doctors, because
Mm.
we've all been, and this is for the doctors. We've all been. You hear some doctor's name, and you're like, "Who is that loser? Who is that? He's a nobody.
Yeah.
He botched you, or this or that." No, I have my website on. So when people go, who's this Steinbrech idiot? I've never
Mhm.
heard of that guy. And then they get on my website and then they go about me and then they go down and see the CV and
Yep.
they see the talks and they see the badges. I put the badges from all the places that I've been. When they see that, even other surgeons are like, oh, wait a second. They see the textbook, the other
He's the real
surgeons is
deal.
like, oh, maybe this guy is an idiot. Maybe
Mm.
I'll be careful not. Or maybe it's the patient. Maybe it's not so much the doctor. Maybe the patient is a problem. And this doctor looks like he's pretty legit. Because whenever I see a patient that's coming in for a second opinion, I'm not too
Yeah.
sure who the doctor was. I'll look back and I'll say, wait, this guy is a good guy.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the patient that has the issue. Or maybe the patient did something with the patient's recovery that caused this kind of event. And maybe it's not just that, because the patient is always going to badmouth the doctor. And
Right.
I want to be fair to that doctor, but I have that stuff on my website for the other doctors too, so they don't hear from the patient that I'm some kind of complete idiot. But it was really the patient's issues that had like maybe a not so great outcome,
Mhm.
and I want to make sure that my website looks good for them. And that's the other thing. Save all your badges. You're going to do an Instagram of your badge. Make sure you put all your badges on your website so that people see all the conferences that you go to and all the conferences that you speak at. Like that means a lot to patients.
And all the podiums you've stood at and all the videos, add it all of it counts. And that's branding. When I
Yeah.
went to your website, I mean, I knew who you were because I've known you forever, but oh my God, I thought he's documented all of it. That's the secret. Like, because everyone else forgets that part. Like they're at the meeting
Yeah.
and no one's taking photos of them. And I think, oh my gosh, just pinpoint all of that, put it in one place, and you become the star as you have.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is that when I started this practice, I did not want to do marketing. I hated marketing. I just wanted to have a quiet little whisper office and just have, see people in my little Park Avenue boutique office. And then everything changed when the internet hit. And then you had to do it. You were in or you're out. So I had to make myself do it. And I'm a guy that hates doing this stuff, but I realized that I needed to do it. So that's a lesson to people out there that are a little bit shy about things. You just got to get out there and do it.
Was it helpful also though to get PR help? Because I'm assuming you had some help with that, but you were in New York, but you've had a lot of PR, like Men's Health, GQ, Maria. I love her, Maria, with the long name, Maria Gacharami, Babarami.
Oh yeah, Mara Polo,
Oh, I love her. Batra,
Bartimolo,
yeah,
Bartimolo. Sorry,
yeah,
Maria. Yeah, and you know what the answer to that? I've
mhm.
never ever had a PR agent. Never
Really.
ever, never ever paid. I swear to God, never
I
ever
find
paid
that
for.
hard to believe. You're on
I
Park Avenue.
I
Everyone's
know.
got an agent.
I
Okay.
know. I swear to God, which is good. So if you're out there and you think you have to have a big,
Yeah.
expensive PR agent, however, I have a lot of connections. I have a whole
Mm.
list of what I call the peeps list of anyone I've ever met and
Yeah.
anyone
Nice.
I've ever done. And I've had a lot of happy patients that want to help me out.
Mm.
Patients in the media, patients that are celebrities, patients that have connections, family members that want to help out, that can do it. But the main thing, a lot of this is there are still people that are doing a story that want to have the best person that does the best results for men's plastic surgery, and they actually find me, and someone didn't need to grease their hands or their pockets to be
Mm.
able to have them on. So if you're really good at something, if you truly do promote yourself as a specialist, or you do become an expert, you get free PR. Can you believe that?
Nice.
It's really really true. The Nightline thing that I just had,
Mhm.
nobody brought that. They just literally they looked up and they wanted to see who that was. So I've never had a PR agent. I've considered it several times, but I've never had. I do have a marketer and he's very good, but
Mm.
I've never had someone that directly goes out and goes
Huh.
directly to page six. I knew the editor of page six.
He
That
get
helped.
paid very well in New York to be a PR agent for you
Yeah.
guys. Unbelievable. That just reminded me of something regarding networking and referrals. Men are not notoriously known for being good referral sources.
No.
Oftentimes, I'm talking generally here.
Yeah.
Men like to get in and out, not a lot of chit chat, not a lot of discussion, and not a
Yeah.
lot of referrals going on or reviews. Have you found that? Oh, on the other hand, though, on the other hand, I'm in California, I'm in
Yeah.
San Francisco. The best grassroots gay group is like killer. Like
Yeah.
you get one group, and they're so good at grassroots marketing that they will build your practice for you if indeed that's who you're niching, you know. So,
Yeah.
how do you find that with men? Are they sharing or not?
No, they shared less. And that is one of the disadvantages of, and this is why, this is also when you're doing Instagram, um, like to just start a men's only Instagram. Now, because the guys, they don't want to go on Instagram. They don't want to be seen on Instagram
Yeah.
necessarily. It's very challenging. It's almost
Mhm.
better to include the men on your women's Instagram. But but I would say that the straight men are the worst. So I love straight dudes. They're really, really cool. Straight guys just don't want to share.
No.
Absolutely not. So the gay guys are more likely to share a little bit more. So you definitely want to make sure that everyone in your staff is male friendly,
Hmm.
and also that they can't be homophobic at all. You know, they
Yeah.
have to be very friendly. I mean, nobody needs to like be putting on pink and rainbows and stuff. That's ridiculous. Nobody needs to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, I tell people when I give this course talk, I talk about like, your office. You don't want your office to have too many butterfly flowery wallpaper. You don't want to have plum and those things like 280s anyway,
Yeah.
290s. People are more modern, contemporary earth tones, but you also, it doesn't have to be Hooters either. Some people like, Grant Stevens did a great job. I love Grant Stevens. He's a great guy. He's a good friend
I
of
was just
mine.
gonna say, you're talking the man cave right now.
Yeah, yeah, and he did a great job.
Mhm.
And the man cave he did for several years,
Yep.
but you don't need to do that. Like, and by the way, it worked for him because he's
Yep.
like a master of marketing, and he had to
Yep.
really push and get on all these radio shows to get people to go to the man cave. But you don't need to do that. If you just want to do, pec implant, glute implant. I used to have a special like Friday to see consults, but more men are doing men's plastic surgery anyway. You don't really need a special day. You don't need the Hooters chicks. You don't need like the bar on the side. You don't need nobody's gonna be drinking in the middle of the day. You
Yeah.
don't need the whiskey bar, like there's cigars. Like you don't need any of that.
He was actually on the podcast pre-COVID, and he said that was a 250,000 build out. And frankly, it was really good PR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
But not as many people are going to put that kind of layout, that kind of
Yeah.
dough. And Grant also he's a great marketer. He had a big, fabulous practice, and his practice could afford to lay out a little
Yeah.
bit more. And he always had a sharp way of recouping that and integrating it into
Oh,
other
yeah.
parts of his practice that the rest of us, particularly people that are just starting out, don't even understand or
No.
can keep up with the idea of crisscrossing
Yeah.
their marketing. But he was a genius at that, so I don't recommend everyone laying out that kind of dough for
He
that.
had been around a long time, and he's so good at staying relevant.
Yeah,
It was always like, what else can I do? What else can I do to get attention? He was so good at that. Actually,
right.
he was really good at the cool sculpting with the banners, or what do you call them? Billboards out there
Yeah, he did. He had
in
a
LA.
ton of cool
And
sculpting.
then you did some really cool billboards in New York.
Yeah,
So how did that work out? Did that work out? Because that looked really cool too.
yeah, yeah, we did it. It's called wild posting, and so it's those kinds that go up where
Yeah.
on areas that would be like construction sites, but it doesn't really work like that anymore because most even on construction sites, if you put anything up, they'll still rip it down.
Oh.
So these are actually it's called wild posting, and they're designated areas that the company actually owns, but it's made to look like it's
Oh.
just slap up, and so it has more of a gritty kind of New York
Yeah.
earthy look, and
Yeah.
I think they have them in LA as well. And so we wanted to try it because we wanted something that would get the brand out. So it's more like brand elevation, and we
Yeah.
wanted it to look New Yorkish, but really sexy. And we wanted to for people to incorporate it with the fabric of New York. So we had really good, I think, messaging, really good imagery for it, and we've had a lot of people that have seen it, and a lot of people that, and also you always have to have your QR code so people just stop and snap it. I was just going down, doing a little bit, doing a couple of photos just for Instagram in front of it.
I
We
saw
took
that. That's
we
cool.
took an afternoon after work and ran down while it was still light out, and I just looking at my watch in front of it just for fun. And even while I was doing it, people were walking up next to me. They had no idea who I was. It's my practice, but they were taking a picture of the QR code right next to
Oh
me.
my
So I
God,
was
that's
like,
so funny.
"Hey, this is working."
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're still in the beginning phases of that. We've seen some really good initial response for that.
What marketing channels are working for you right now, and are they different and different messages in the different 3 cities?
The They are different. We still like YouTube and Instagram are our main channels, and those, uh, like I said before, not so much uh, Snapchat.
Yeah.
But the ones that work the better is YouTube is better still in New York. People want that longer,
Mhm.
more information. Also in Chicago, in LA, it's the people want quicker bites, attention span. So that would be more Instagram. So we keep on getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter in terms of because of people's attention span. But we always refer them back to the videos that have more information on YouTube. I still have a white video that shows all the science and the theory behind body banking and why it's so important. So we always refer people back to it, and we'll take different snippets from that as quick little points. I do like a weekly quick Q&A that we have
Oh,
on Instagram that we'll do for 30 minutes. But then we snip out different things, so we're always uh, double uh, double using our content,
repurposing. I'm a huge fan
repurposing.
of repurposing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because also it looks really authentic,
Mhm.
because you're right in the middle and you're really passionate about what you're talking about rather than,
Mhm.
okay, give us 30 seconds talking about this.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, where was I?
Yeah.
And it's obvious you're just sitting there running like 30-second shots.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we get are from our 30-minute thing where I'm like in the middle of something and really talking about
Yep.
something. So those get snipped off and you get some really good clips out of it. And then you don't have to waste time like spending all your time doing content, content, content.
Mhm. That's actually the repurposing thing was the greatest thing ever invented because you stay more authentic. You just run along. By the way, YouTube is making a huge comeback. People are worried that Instagram is getting old and nobody knows where else people are going to go because it's been around a long time. And
Hmm.
then the question is, okay, where's everyone going? And the problem is, I think they're going to AI. That's going to be a problem. But anyway, YouTube seems to be like the new go-to place because Google owns YouTube. Google's losing some of their search and they're trying to bring it back,
Hmm.
but they're losing on that. So now they're going to double down on YouTube. And frankly, patients will stay on YouTube forever. And if your stuff's at all interesting to them, it's very interesting when you're thinking about doing something. I don't mind at all sitting and watching for half an hour to an hour when I'm thinking about rearranging my face and body.
Yeah,
They don't need to be entertained at that point. I mean, YouTube's more educational, you know? They're trying to find
absolutely.
out, are you the right choice for me? So I would totally keep going with the YouTube, but give them the long form and the YouTube shorts, give everyone what they need. But that's a great place to go for cosmetic patients who are serious. You know,
Sure.
they don't need to
Yeah,
be
and you
entertained
you
as
beat
much.
me to it because one of the mistake is everyone assumes that YouTube is still like 5-minute videos, 3-minute
Right.
videos. No, you have the reels, and then they because a lot of times the reels on YouTube. A lot of times I'm like on social media, and I'll totally forget that I'm on YouTube. I'm seeing like these reels, and I'm like, yummy, yummy,
Mhm.
potato chips, and I realize, oh, holy crap, I've been on YouTube.
Oh,
So don't 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 count it out, and you beat me to it, but make sure that you have a lot of quick snippets on reels on
mhm.
YouTube because there are a lot of people that will just they have short attention spans, and if you just keep these long 3-minute things or even 1 minute, 1 minute is archaic. 1 minute uh, the people may never ever find you, and it never may be pulled into the reels and onto people's feeds
Mm.
unless you have quick little sound bites on their reels, and then that will take people to your website. And also, and when you're on YouTube, one of the reasons we were so successful is 10 years ago, I made uh, a channel about just men's plastic surgery. So
Mm.
if you really specialize in something, make a YouTube channel about
Yep.
that,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
where and own it, like the ethnic Persian rhinoplasty
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channel, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because when you have that little subspecialty, people will go to it and they'll see, wow, he just specializes in this, or she does, and they'll be more likely to stay on that site. So I think that's really important. Yeah, don't count YouTube out.
Yeah. No, I would double down. Okay. Tell us a crazy patient or staff story you care to share.
Um,
You have to have some.
yeah, I mean, silly ones. One of the silly ones, I think probably the silliest one is, and this came out during a staff uh, conference where we asked them to ask the silliest ones. And one of Josh, the guy with the melodious music, and you have to see his YouTube, Instagram, Josh Lumsden. He's a great singer. But he said a patient called up, and this is actually a woman patient, if you can imagine. And because they know that I do a lot of implants, the ab implants and the breast implants. And this patient asked if she could get an implant, an abdominal implant that was the size of an 8-month pregnancy.
Oh my God.
And I thought, I
Oh my
thought,
God.
okay, no, we don't do that. And then I thought, just think, what kind of scenario, what kind of desperate scenario would a person have that they needed to prove to someone? So obviously they needed this to be real, so someone could go up and feel that it wasn't like a pillow underneath.
Oh my
And I
God.
thought, what kind of desperate, maybe life threatening scenario does someone need to show that they're 8 month pregnant? And then how long is it going to be in before we take it out? Because you can't be 8 months pregnant.
Does she have to be pregnant for years on you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We
To
didn't get
stay
to
out of
that.
prison or something?
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
what is
God.
it? Or what kind of scam? It was for a scam or something. It
Oh,
was,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or,
yeah.
or is it protect
Yeah.
someone, or I don't know what it was. Or is it someone who is just like had a mental, we don't say crazy anymore, but
Right.
someone who has a mental illness,
Yeah.
who wanted to need or feel that they were pregnant and just went around scamming people with some kind of pregnancy story, but they needed that real thing to get the final cash.
Why didn't Josh say, "So tell me more about that"?
Yeah,
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 what's
I
that
know.
about?
He was just came to me. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm pretty sure the answer to this, but you don't do a 8 month pregnant. And I said, nope, we're not going to do that one, Josh.
Well,
He's like,
they have
phew.
those websites with the fake, the fake attachments for the like to be pregnant. They have these websites for that, and you buy all these supplies so you can be 1 month up to 9 months pregnant, kind of thing. And it's crazy what people can do nowadays to scam each other.
I know.
Wow.
It is crazy. The other internet. This is another, just one last interesting patient.
Please.
I have a patient call me up and say, "Hey, I love you, Dr. Steinbrech. You're great. Why did you let the guy from Turkey use my before and after
Oh
shots
no.
for rhinoplasty?" And it was one of my male model makeovers. So this guy, and this happened about 4 times at this point. With just the first one was in Turkey. So
Yeah.
these guys will just snap up your before and after. I think it's a compliment. I always post it, and like, hey, this is another compliment. They used my BNAs again. This time it was in South America. But they used just an injectable, and they said the guy had a chin implant, a jawline implant, a nasal implant. But the great thing about it is I did it all in 10 minutes, just for with injectables, and did a male model makeover. So it was actually my way to use that. Say, this is so good, they thought that they had surgery, but you can get this in 10 minutes.
Wow. I do recommend you date everything and put your watermark on everything
Yes.
because AI is going to become a real problem. Have you seen the videos yet where they can move your mouth to say what you want?
Oh yeah, yeah. All the those are the deep fakes that are coming.
Well, I did it for myself. So I gave him there's a technology and I gave him a video.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
actually, I gave a talk on this at Kassir's master
Oh, did
course.
you? Yeah.
And I gave a branding talk, and I said, for those of you who are going after, other parts of the world and you're international, why don't you start making videos of different languages? So I was me speaking Italian, and it looked really good. It's going to be a problem because people are going to be able to make you say things. I don't know what they're going to do about all that. Yeah.
But I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you just think of the worst things where people use your son's picture and say, Dad, I'm in big trouble. I've been kidnapped. All that crazy stuff. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Scary.
Yeah, we can't fix all of life's problems, so we'll just stick to what we can.
Yes.
So, Dr. Steinbrech, you have a wonderful, everyone go to his website. It's Dr. Steinbrech, and Steinbrech is STEINBRECH.com. And he also owns Instagram, maleplasticsurgerynetwork.com and Male Plastic Surgery LA. And I forgot to ask, tell us something interesting we don't know about you. And quite frankly, you are quite the world traveler. So if you don't have anything else, I would love for you to talk about what have been the best places you visited that you highly recommend.
Well, I'll tell you where I've been the last year. We've been to, well, of course, Austin for the meeting, but I've been to Colombia, to China. I was back in China 2 months ago, down in Mexico, Australia, Greece. Did I say Greece? And Italy. So I think that was all in the last year. So and that's on top of all the regular Chicago trips and all the regular LA trip. And the thing to know about me is that when I can travel, I always take my family, because we have that silly thing where wherever we are as a family, it's home. So that's really important to me. Is I do travel a lot, but whenever I can, I take my family with me.
Sweet. What would you say are your two absolute favorite mind-bending trips that you've been on that other people must see?
I mean, I really love China. I think China, a lot of like JD Vance. I forget about politics, Republican, Democrat, whatever. But where JD Vance, I got to say, and I love things about both sides. So I'm not going to be negative either way. But he did say, that thing about the peasants. When I was in Zhengzhou, which is where the last Chinese conference was, I was just blown away that just outside the conference, and this like the cars were a little bit dusty. And so I know that they weren't like the big fancy people at that hotel. I think maybe they were cleaning the place. But it was, I even have the video. I could show you the video. It was BMW, Audi, Tesla, BMW, and then another Mercedes. And I was shocked. So when people think that, China is a bunch of peasants, you got another thing coming, because there's a lot going on in China. So that was probably one of the most interesting. And then also operating in Paris, going to the MCAS, just, so much fun, because those guys know how to party. And that's what we're trying to do. This is my plug for the Aesthetic Society. When we're in Boston, we want to have that kind of MCAS feeling, at least, to create the experience. And we're talking about the experience. It's going to be the 250th anniversary of our dear country. So we're really going to lean into celebrating that and having a good time, and coming more, we were always, Aesthetic Society, I'm on the board, and I'm the co-chair of the program committee. So we always want to have the best education, but we also want to have a lot of fun so friends can have a good time and come back. So we're going to really make Boston about this next spring.
Nice. So glad. Yes, I plan on being there. Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for us today. If you would please go check out Dr. Steinbrech and his Instagram. It's really good. And he's a really good brander and a marketer. Really good. And then if you've got any questions or feedback for me, please leave them on my website at CatherineMaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at CatherineMaleyMBA. And with that, we will talk again soon. Thank you.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. but it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.